What is yoga therapy? Or what's the difference between yoga and yoga therapy? These are two questions I get all the time, and frankly, I tend to stumble over the answer because I know the actual definition. Yoga therapy is applying yogic principles to an individual with a specific objective to achieve a physical, a psychological, or a spiritual goal. But it's really a lot more than that, which is why I tend to stumble because that definition never really feels satisfying to me or particularly explanatory. So, yes, we do use yogic principles, but ultimately, what comes to mind for me is a line from a Rilke passage where a young poet is asking for advice, and Rilke says, "Go inside yourself." Go inside yourself is really what yoga therapy is all about. It's acknowledging that there's lots of information in our world and huge benefits to being mentored and receiving advice and researching and studying. But ultimately, the answer is inside. So we gather up all of that information so that we can go inside and find our own authentic voice. But in order to do that, we have to start from a place of grounding. We start with nervous system regulation because you can't hear that quiet voice unless you're feeling grounded, unless you kind of turn down the volume on all of that external information. And that's really what the somatic spiral is about. It's about building from the foundation of nervous system regulation and then using the other tools that we need in order to hear that quieter voice inside. And that is ultimately what the somatic spiral framework is all about. We start with nervous system regulation. That's the foundation for everything. We can't hear that truer voice when we're stressed out, when we're taking in too much external information. We have to get grounded and quiet things down a little bit. And then we can work with the other pillars, which are tools to hear that voice. Whether you're working with self-compassion, deep imagery, somatic parts work, or deep listening, you're using those tools in order to hear that quieter, deeper voice. And for me, that's what yoga therapy is about. It's about recognizing that I am the expert of my own experience. And so, as a yoga therapist, my job is to help facilitate that experience. It's not to give advice, it's not to guide you in a particular direction, it's to help you hear your own true voice and discover the answers to your questions. So, with that in mind, let's explore a brief yoga therapy guided meditation. If you'd like to join me, make your way into any kind of comfortable shape. You can be seated on the floor or in a chair. You can come into a restorative pose, any shape that allows you to relax. And once you arrive there, just take a moment to settle. Feel the places in your body that are in contact with support, and invite yourself to drop into that support. See if you can feel your body getting a little more relaxed, a little heavier. Begin to lengthen the exhale. You don't have to breathe in any particular way. Just see if you can make the exhale a little longer and the inhale a little more satisfying. So noticing the support beneath you and finding a more nourishing, satisfying breath is one of the first ways to just start to get into a deeper sense of regulation, to start to feel a little more grounded and a little quieter. And this could be where you stay. An entire practice can simply be about finding your ground, feeling more supported and more settled. And again, you're starting to notice just a little more quiet inside, a little less noise in the head. And from that place, you can start to become a little bit more aware of what's happening inside, starting with the body. So just notice sensations in your body, what's pleasant, what's unpleasant, what's neutral. Not to tell a story about any of those things, but just to get a little bit more present, to really feel yourself arriving inside. If there's a question you have, something you've been sort of asking of yourself or others, you could bring that question to mind. You don't have to. This can be a kind of open exploration of just noticing what your body has to share with you today. But if there's a question that's present, feel free to just bring that to your awareness and sit with it for a moment. And as you're sitting with that question, if there is one, you're just noticing the sort of bodily response. So if I ask myself a question silently inside, I might have some sensations that pop in. I might notice an emotion. I might notice a thought or an image. These are just ways to pay attention. These are ways that the body speaks through thoughts, through images, through sensations, through emotions. So if you're sitting with a question, and that question could be as simple as what's here, what's present, what does my body want to tell me right now? You then just notice the thoughts, sensations, images, emotions that might arise. You don't have to figure anything out. You're just gathering internal information. And if something pops into your awareness that feels interesting, you might say, tell me more about that. Tell me more about that memory or that color, that thought, that tightness in the jaw, whatever arises. Just say to yourself inside, tell me more about that. And then notice what arises next. You're just following the threads. You could follow these threads for 30 seconds or 20 minutes. You're just gathering information about what it is that your body in this moment wants you to know. You might even say something to yourself like, is there anything else? Is there an action that's called for? Just give yourself a little bit more time here to follow the threads and ask any question that you feel like posing, and then notice the response, the thoughts or images or emotions or sensations that come in when you ask a question. You may want to sit with this for a while longer. You may want to complete this practice. You can do so on your own. This is just a very small example of what can happen in a yoga therapy session. Yes, there can be lots of movement. There can be lots of different kinds of practices. You could have a somatic parts conversation. There's lots of places to go. But ultimately, whatever tools you're using to turn up the volume on that inner, more authentic voice and turn down the volume on all of the information that's coming at you all the time. If these are practices you'd like to explore with a little more support, you can join me for my somatic immersion. I'm Rachel. Subscribe for more somatic healing practices and nervous system regulation tools.